because I don't want no scrubs.
Really?
No.
You're not aware that's a TLC song?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
I don't want no scrub. A scrub is a guy who ain't getting no love from me.
These videos are not for children. If you are a children, then piss off.
Hey there, I'm Infuso, and Scrubs is honestly one of the greatest shows I've ever seen. They somehow perfectly personify what it's like to work as a nurse. Or at least, so I'm told by my nurse friends. And somehow they took taking care of physically sick, mentally ill, and unfortunately terminal people and made it funny. I don't know how they did, but they did. And it's good. So good, in fact, that it lasted 9 years. That's almost a decade of hospital laughs. I mean, sure, yeah, ER was around, but really, when's the last time George Clooney made you laugh? I mean, I know for me it was Tomorrowland, but that might be for different reasons. Still not over what you did to Batman. I'm still not over what you did to Batman, you son of a... Anyway, without further hesitation, I bring to you The Day Scrubs Died.
But I can't do this all on my own. No, I know I'm no Superman. No.
Alright, so we all know what this video is gonna be about. Here I am talking about The Day Scrubs Died, so obviously this video is gonna be about Season 9 of the show. I know, I'm sorry for the spoilers, but everybody clicking on this video already knew what I was gonna say to begin with. But before I get into a very long, unnecessary tangent about that, let me first go through a list of issues I had with the show prior to its final send-off. First off, the show never knew how to properly end its seasons. There's almost never a big, grandiose ending. Except for Season 8, which was honestly pretty damn perfect. And of course, they continued on after that. But it just seemed like the rest of the season finales just never really seemed like season finales. Maybe I'm just saying that because my first experience watching this was on Netflix and I binge-watched the whole thing in like 2 or 3 days. But I had no idea when one season was ending and a new one was beginning. It was just going down the list. I had no idea. 1 second, I think I'm on Season 3. I look it up. Season 7. How the fuck did that happen? Now, that's not to say that these episodes are bad, because I don't feel that they are. It's just there's nothing that separates them from every other episode. Nothing really ever seemed like a season closer. There weren't any cliffhangers, there wasn't any new storyline setups or closing storyline arcs. It just continues. So I don't know, that was just a problem that I had with it that I want to talk about. The will they or won't they between JD and Elliot was one of the most annoying attempts of that angle that I've ever had the misfortune of seeing. I mean, they're right up there with Ross and Rachel. They're not quite Ross and Rachel, but right below them. Right underneath them. Especially that one time that JD got with Elliot and then immediately decided he didn't want to be with her. I don't know, the way the show teased the romance between the two just really annoyed the hell out of me. And at the time, them not being together seemed really forced. I think that they have a very natural chemistry, and I don't think that they've ever came up with a legitimate reason for these two to not be an item. It just seemed like they were trying to prolong the lifespan of the show. Both keeping them apart for so long and keeping them apart in the manner that they did come off as really, really forced and really, really lame. Honestly, a lot of their back and forth makes JD look like a dick and Elliot seem insufferable. Elliot's in a relationship that seems like it's leading somewhere, so of course JD swoops in to break it up, only to immediately dump her after the fact. And then we're supposed to feel bad for JD when Elliot mistreats him following that, but it honestly seems kind of justified. Then later on, they become so detached from each other that JD is completely comfortable with his ex dating his brother. But in the end, they end up together anyway? I don't know. Look, I like JD and Elliot together. They click. I totally buy them being a real couple. But there came a point where it looked like they separated the characters so far from each other that seeing them come back together in the end just feels a little bit contrived. I don't know, that's just my opinion, maybe you have another one. Another complaint that I have, which I actually have to thank my friend and actual nurse Sajid, because he's the one who brought this to my attention, and then upon reviewing it, I was like, oh wow, yeah, no, you got a point there. So another gripe that I have now is that Carla sucks. I guess I didn't pay as much attention on my first viewing, but at his request, upon a second glance, she is the absolute worst. And not just character in the show, maybe like just person in TV. The woman gets pissed off at Turk for looking at other women, but then she goes out on a date with the guy she was interested in while she's still dating Turk. And then when she and him get married, she manages to kick JD out of his own place. And that's JD, who lived there first, invited Turk to live with him, and now somehow got kicked out of his own place. Man, I didn't hate her before, but like when I rewatched it, I can't stand her now. Plus, she always just seems to have an attitude to her about everything. I mean, she rolls her eyes more than George Michael in a Wham music video. I think what makes matters even worse is that she's paired with Turk, who is without a doubt the most likable character on the show. I mean, out of everybody in the main cast, he's the only one who doesn't ever seem to do anything that could be viewed in a negative light. He's basically the best friend that everybody wants. So naturally, of course, he's paired with Carla, who basically seems to be the ex-girlfriend that you tell horror stories about for the rest of your life. And trust me, I should know, I have about 3 of them. Carla is the worst. But now with that out of the way, let's get to the reason why y'all clicked on this video. Season 9. Season 9 of Scrubs shifted the setting from the hospital to med school, with all of our favorite characters, minus Carla and Elliot. I mean, she shows up once or twice, but she's not really working at the med school. Now they're all taking on mentor roles and teaching the next class of doctors. And a lot of people weren't on board with this decision. A lot of the viewers didn't like that Season 9 of the series was supposed to be a complete restart of sorts for the franchise. The names and faces we all know and loved were present, but they were pretty much confined to the background, while brand new names and faces were pushed to the forefront. And really, who are these nobodies? Well, I mean, that's Dave Franco. I know him, because his brother's James Franco. But other than that, who are these nothings? Give me my JD and Turk. I want cock. Oh, wait. That sounded differently in my head. Should probably rephrase that one, or just move away from it entirely. It was nice seeing all these actors return to the show and play their most famous characters one last time. But I think the audience wanted to see them a little bit more than they did. Instead, we only got to see our favorite characters in passing. The new characters aren't what I'd like to call bad, but I can totally see how somebody who watched this show while it aired for close to a decade of their lives, only to be completely blindsided with the promise of a new additional season, and instead to be handed this with a bunch of practical unknowns to them, might think that they were bad. This is a passing of the torch season, going from one generation to the next. And that seemed to be what a lot of fans of the show were upset by. It kind of seemed like they were lied to. I mean, think of it like this. Degrassi, if you happen to know what that show is, successfully switched from generation to generation, keeping some of its older actors in the background in supporting roles. But Degrassi was also honest with its viewers. They didn't just promise a new season of Degrassi, the show you once knew and loved. They flat out said, this is Degrassi, the next generation. But meanwhile here they were like, hey, you want a new season of Scrubs? Guess what? You got it! And instead you were handed this. And you're just sitting there like, this is what I asked for, but this is not what I wanted. Do you have a receipt, or am I just stuck with this now? I think the thing that bugs me personally the most about the last season is that there was a very important surgery scene that was left on the cutting room floor. That being when JD generously gave his most important characteristics for an immediate emergency personality transplant to the new lead. Now listen, I don't think Lucy, the show's new narrator, was a bad character. But I do think they ripped way too many pages out of the book of JD. This was a real Adam and Eve situation. From the ribs of JD, Lucy was made. It made it seem like the writers of the show just had no idea how to write the show without Zach Braff. So they just continued to write the show with JD, just without JD. Am I making any sense? I don't know. These videos are really starting to get to me. I need to stop and give myself a break. I think the show failed Lucy as a character by being too dependent on making her JD 2.0. She has the same quirky personality, the same awkward episodic narration, and she even has similar daydreams. And to me, making the new lead that much like the old lead feels really cheap. Having them be similar isn't a death sentence, but having them be this similar is gonna lead to unfavorable comparisons between the old lead and the new lead. And obviously, everyone spent more time with the old lead, so they're not gonna like the new one. Instead of the show letting Lucy survive as her own character, because they depended so much on making her JD with boobs, viewers of the series looked at her as a second-rate replacement. And that's really unfortunate, because I don't dislike this actress here, but I think the writing for her left a little bit to be desired. Lucy should have been this season's fresh start, but instead, she comes off as a tired rehash. So with all that being said, get ready to hate me, because Scrubs Season 9 isn't actually all that bad.
Boo this man!
Wait, hold on, there's more to the statement, hear me out here. When I first watched the show about 2 years ago, I was warned not to watch its last season. Season 9 ruins the show! Just skip Season 9, it's not even worth it. If you watch Season 9, you won't like the show anymore. But I actually kind of enjoyed the show's last season, even if it wasn't supposed to be the show's last season. Still, I totally get the hatred that Scrubs fans have for the last season, and it's not entirely unfounded. You see, Season 8 was the picture-perfect ending. It was the final goodbye. It was everything that we could have hoped for. I said in the past that I don't think that they knew how to end seasons, but this right here was not only a great season ending, but was a fantastic series ending. It was funny, it was emotional, it held up to everything that the show was. It was this show at its best. There was a real sense of finality in this finale. The show ended in such a way that it really wrapped up the characters' arcs and gave the viewer a good idea of where each one of them were headed next. And that montage at the end, oh man, I don't even have words. I'm not even intelligent enough to articulate how great that was. It was the perfect way of ending things. There was no coming back from this. And then the show got renewed. And then they had to come back for this. So now show creators were forced into somehow continuing a show that had just clearly ended. The initial idea was to instead do a spin-off series titled Scrubs Med School. But that wasn't what ABC wanted. They ordered more Scrubs, and they were gonna get more Scrubs one way or another, goddammit! Now this forced the hands of producers to turn what could have been a decent spin-off series into a shoehorned final season of the main series. But to the show's credit, it did do everything it possibly could do to try and establish itself as a secret spin-off, rather than another season of the mainstay. They had a brand new opening with a new cover of the theme song, and then there's even that one split-second credit where you can actually read the title Med School. Pretty sneaky, sis.
It was supposed to be the end. We thought the show was over, so much so that my only regret about this year is I wish the show had a slightly new title.
There's also several obstacles the show's final season faced. Show creator Bill Lawrence was already busy with his then new series Cougar Town, so I think most of his energy and effort was actually put into that, which was probably a safer bet. The vast majority of writers for Scrubs left the show before the 9th season, as did a lot of its executive producers. And honestly, I really don't believe Bill wanted to do this season. At least that's just the feeling that I get after watching all this. Yet here they were trying to put together another season of a beloved show, as opposed to a fresh start with a brand new series, keeping the title Scrubs, but continuing on. A series that would have acknowledged the legacy of the original show, but continued on and spun it off into its own thing. And that's why I think the last season is looked at so poorly. Truth of the matter is, Scrubs Season 9 would have been much better as Scrubs Med School Season 1. And I think if they were allowed to promote this as a follow-up series rather than the next season of the show, it could have actually worked. I mean, I don't think it would be as beloved or have the longevity its parent show did, but I could definitely see it being remembered favorably and lasting for, 3 or 4 seasons. Maybe 5, but that's as far as it goes. The fact that this was marketed as Scrubs Season 9 destroyed any potential the show could have seen. And in my opinion, there is potential here. It could have worked, it should have worked, but it would never work as the next season of Scrubs. And that's why people don't like it. I'll be honest with you, I actually had a really hard time making this video. There just wasn't all that much to pick apart here, because Scrubs was almost always consistently good. Sure, there were parts I didn't like here and there, but that could really be said about any and every show. Angel's one of my all-time favorite series, but there's still episodes, plots, and even a full season that I'm not so crazy about. This video is without a doubt going to be the shortest in this series, and I think that that's indicative of just how good this show really was. A video that should have taken me a day to make took me about 3 days to make, just because I was searching my brain. I was rewatching old episodes. I was going out of my way to try to find things about this that I didn't like, and I couldn't come up with all that much. So I hope it was worth it for you guys. I know I enjoyed watching the episodes, but maybe I came up a little bit short on this one. I don't know. I'm not so confident in putting this up, but I think at the end of the day, for me, Scrubs began a minimal decline in between Season 7 and 8. And I totally understand why there's people out there who don't like Season 9, I get it. But again, I don't think it's all that bad. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say it's one of my favorite seasons of the show. It's not. It's probably actually my least favorite season. But if I'm acting like it's an extension of the show and not just, another outing in it, it's okay. It's alright. I don't mind it. It's not bad. Now, I'm sure a lot of you guys disagree with me. And you're like, no, that last season was terrible. It just was terrible. You don't know what you're talking about. But if you take the time to look back and you watch the last season of Scrubs and you try to see it and visualize it as a spin-off show as opposed to a final season of a show, I think you'll come around to my way of thinking. And if you don't, you'll let me know about it one way or another in the comment section. That's what it's there for. So with that being said, I'm Infuso. This was the day Scrubs died, and that's all I got. I'm not really good at ending these videos, so I guess me and Scrubs have a lot in common. Oh, brought it back, full circle, perfect ending. Don't worry, I'm not going to do a follow-up. That's it, this is where we're going to end it.
Yoo-hoo! From your old pal Sam. Sorry, I don't quite have my vocal chops today. And if you're looking for a talented character actor, I'm right here. I've got all kinds of range. All right. So take care. This is Sam Lloyd signing off.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Alex Jones, and we are breaking the conditioning. Now look, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm kind of retarded, which is why I liked and subscribed to the Social Injustice Warriors channel. I even clicked that little bell to stay notified. You have to look into it, people. But then I began to uncover what I believe to be a secret, nefarious plot orchestrated by Zionist reptilians. Now give me a second. Digging deep, I discovered that he wants you to quote-unquote follow him on Twitter. Now think about that for a minute. What kind of person, what sort of individual wants you to follow them? You know who else wanted people to follow them? The world's biggest Beach Boy fan, Charles Manson. Those who want to show their support donate to the guy's Patreon for exclusive content. Now, why is it so exclusive? What's this guy hiding from the public? What do those Patreons see that the people of YouTube don't? Then I noticed he also has a PayPal, and just for the low price of $22 plus shipping, you can get yourself a SIJW t-shirt, Social Injustice Warrior. So let's put this all together. He wants people to follow him, he calls you VTards, he wants you all to donate your money to him, and he wants all of you to wear the same clothing. So that just leads to ask, what kind of a hive-like cult is this man operating? V Infuso, the Social Injustice Warrior.